drib. In the distance, you see an unmistakable indication of civilization. Though overgrown, there are worn smooth stone steps leading kind of off into the distance, off of this main trail. You have not seen, right? Like the last time you saw any kind of civilization, it was the farm, right? And kind of up on, because more or less this place is pretty well flat and featureless. But there is, you're kind of slowly rising in elevation. Up there, there's definitely a building of some kind, only about the size of a shed, a shack, maybe the ruins of a tower. Right, it goes up maybe 15 feet or so.
Gotcha.
You are the only one who spots this.
All right, Alinsky's a town, right?
Yeah.
Cool. This isn't a town. Doesn't matter.
Okay, so you ride on.
Yeah, I'm not stopping and letting that guy get closer. He's going to kill us.
Okay. The party continues on then. So we're getting together for one final time, at least in this world, to talk a little about the end of the game. We talked about it real briefly when as we were playing 2 weeks ago, because for a couple people this was the longest campaign they had been in, and for a couple people I think it was the only campaign that's ever like formally come to an end, right? Although we're missing a few people, so we're also
Yeah, for me it was definitely both. I mean, the only things that I could say have come to an end in any of the games I've played before were like one shots.
Yeah.
So
what about you, Tristan?
This is as far as games I've actually been in, aside from when I was in college and we were all wanted to play D&D, but no one actually wanted to learn the rules or run a real game. That this is definitely the most real. This is D&D. This is a campaign.
That's cool. Squid doesn't really count. She's been playing D&D for a minute, but certainly a long game, even if not the longest game.
Couple decades.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's pretty impressive.
How are you not level 20 by now?
Well, I mean, it's an ongoing, the new characters, but same world, and then we still revisit the old characters.
She just keeps bringing it back up. Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, isn't that sort of what you've done at times with the Tomoto Isles?
Yeah, the Tomoto
Same world stuff happens.
Yeah, the Tomoto Islands has, so let's see, we did 1 year in second edition on stream in it over a couple different one shots. I did almost 2 years in second edition with it. I did almost 3 years in fifth edition with it. And then we took a year off, and then I gave another year. So all told, it's got about 7, 8 years.
That's respectable.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive when you consider that it's like 500 by 200 mile islands. You know what I mean? Like, it's not very big.
Yeah.
So at this point, more of it has been explored than not. But it was very specifically separated in a few different like ages. Like the second time we went back in fifth edition, it was 20 years after everything had happened. And the second edition happened, and players never actually knew this, but it actually happened in the second age of the world. So they were separated. So they definitely, like, they had echoes and little they could like find references to each other basically, but there's very little chance of running into each other, which I think helped make it last longer.
That's always a fun thing. Like little callbacks and stuff are always a nice touch.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're just kind of catching up on it a little bit, and for anybody who does end up hanging out in chat, like, hit me up with your questions and stuff. Like, usually I'll sit on some of my secrets, like Gandalf would. Use them for my
Fine
next...
then, keep your secrets.
Yeah, but I'm actually more interested in sharing them and talking a little about the world. Yeah,
This is a rare.
Yeah, this is a rare treat for you all.
So this is something that I was kind of mulling over. You mentioned like that the weird sun god we had released was sealed away by the other current sun gods, right?
I would have to check my notes. That sounds right.
Okay.
The idea. Well, finish your question, then I'll respond.
Well, so with that, Seaora was clearly tracking this thing. Was in whatever thing with her killing Paylor, I don't know if maybe that was metaphorical or literal or what, was that supposed to be in some service to this thing? Or
yeah, so to me, the players skipped something very, very early on, and that was a cursed sword.
Wait, that was actually a thing?
Yeah, that was like what, session 2, session 3?
Yeah, we just went right by it.
Mm-hmm. There was like a little outcropping, a little hill, and the players were like, "Man, we'll keep going."
I was the one who was doing the cart, and I was like, "No, we're not stopping."
Yeah, and I was like, I really, really thought they would go, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean for the world, right? Like, what happens? And then so what? The next episode, 2 episodes later, we did the flashback or the flash sideways, and that was
the cutaway.
Yeah, Seaora and Answer and Eldum going up there, and Seaora getting like taken over by the sword.
That's what
the one I missed. This makes so much more sense.
I mean,
I
didn't realize
I missed, I think, or 2, I guess.
It was just a brief, like we didn't even see what was happening.
Yeah.
Oh, her running up the steps, being like some big surprising thing was there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no.
That's funny. Yeah.
Oh, it was a sword.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It was
because that's been like what was, and I even remember like rewatching that part when I was getting ready for the recap.
What does this fucking mean?
Well, it's like I remembered you made a comment about how it's like definitely not a cursed sword there, and I'm like, yeah, sure, totally. Because I think had we gone for it, that definitely would have gone to Garahud, Jitu, yeah. Like that's his thing.
Yeah. And
oh my god!
I was like, nah, we don't need it. I was like, okay. Yo,
well, it was
Cleave just subscribed to Electric
Bass
Podcast. Get one, spoopy boy.
Oh yeah, spam those long boys.
Heck yeah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Where the heck are they?
During our very casual talky episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, speaking of G2, I was expecting I kept expecting the snake god to come back at some point and be like in some kind of way like a plot point somewhere. But I don't think we explored that any further.
There were so many things that could have, like, I think that may have been partially intentional. Just there were a lot of maybes depending on what we did.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I liked how all the things that we like decided to forego or like people we wronged came back to haunt us in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was definitely fun. I did like that a lot. It was very, very cathartic for me.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah, you decided to skip all my cool things I wrote.
Yeah.
Well, fuck you. They're coming back.
You can't get
I mean, we didn't skip.
Easy.
We like there are a lot of secrets that never like we just didn't delve into. I still don't know what was up with the tablet, like the weird stone monolith thing we were marching around. So that's fun, but like, kind of. Oh my god.
Yeah, hold on, Dave. Did you hear about this Dan versus Dave Olympics? I'm just curious. I'm just trying to see something real quick. I just want to know. I want to know, like, am I like getting cut out here? Is this something I did? Did you sub in a Davis instead of a Dave? Is that what's going on?
I mean, I don't know how widespread it was. It might have been like a spur of the moment comment.
Yeah, I'm just starting to think that there's a trend here. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, I mean, I guess if he's gonna challenge Dave's to Olympics, what better way to ensure a win by not telling them until the last minute?
Oof.
Yeah, it feels like It's not really ethical, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
well, now you know. So
that's true. Now I do know.
You can, not elbow check me in the race.
I mean, wait, I'm painting. I got nothing. Okay, yeah. We gotta you and me. We gotta catch up tomorrow, real quick. All right, cool. So, sorry, got distracted for a moment.
It's the Dice podcast. That's part
true.
of the charm.
It's true. I get distracted every time the bits and the everything goes off. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back a sec. The first one was Jitu Garahud and him coming back. So Jitu Garahud was really interesting to me because Dan gave me a couple things to work with, but it wasn't a ton, which is fine. You know what I mean? Like it was early on, and I don't think any of the characters had a ton of like terribly complicated backstories or plot hooks or anything. He really wanted to be seen as like a leader of his people, the Wanti, and I was like, I'm not thinking that they're like terribly oppressed. I don't think that they're really, you know what I mean, like looked down upon or anything. So it was, to me, it was like very much like a religious thing. It was just like in the pale, like the churches of the three gods of the sun are preeminent among all things, and then like the secret cult of the first hunger, that is actually vampires, is constantly conspiring to blot out the sun. And I knew I wanted to do that. That was the initial pitch. You know what I mean? The concepts of the game were Fallout Dead Money, like this smash and grab heist, this very like sterile and fake landscape, which is what I was going for in not in Dustow but in Alinsky, right? It was this very like things were supposed to feel like awkward and uncomfortable in that way there. So the thing that was really fun about Jitu Garahud, because I didn't go in with it knowing why they were mining that amber, that ore, right? Like I just kind of knew I wanted them to be doing something with it, but I didn't know what it meant. And I don't remember when exactly the idea was like, oh, I'll put a giant snake in there. But like very quickly it was like, well, obviously it's a giant snake. Like, what do you mean? Like, of course it was a giant snake, and it worked really well because the verbiage on G2's resurrection magic from what, like the first or second game was very vague. And I was like, if he resurrects that snake, like, does he even stay with the party? You know what I mean? And that was always a thing that I thought would be really cool. What were we, about halfway through the game when we did the flash forward and we saw your elf Tristan, and then G2 I think was standing next to him?
That it was when we did the time episode. Because I rolled and I got to do a narration on your turn, so I had free reign. And at that point, I knew like Drib had I'd been having some trouble with the fact that like playing a Kenku is really tough to actually play it correctly and not break the rules.
Sure.
Like I liked the idea, I liked the character, but I was constant. Like I towards the beginning tried to get better, but it was a little better, but it's also really difficult when you're like, I can't communicate or ask the questions I want to ask, which is part of the limitation. But so it's like I had been working on this other character, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be super self-indulgent and have the whole scene of them in the cathedral with Goose, and because we had our bad guy, like we knew Sia Ora is the antagonist, and I'm just like, you know what? Sure. Z2's going to be there because I know Dan had expressed some interest in retiring Puvu as well, and I'm like, oh, that would be an interesting thing to have like one, and it's also just like here's a brand new character,
sure,
which feasibly could have happened but didn't. I'm still loving that I was able to make Dan LA's prediction happen later in the shape changing thing from. The machine. Because that was just like.
Which one was that actually?
That since Dan was the first one to go with like the weird past present thing.
Dan LA.
Dan LA, yeah.
Yeah.
And he showed Drib briefly turning into the weird time monster.
That was some
and I'm like, wait a second.
Shit. That was one of my favorite like little moments that ever happened.
Yeah, I'm proud of that one because I'm just like, you didn't have anything to work with, and this was like kind of a funky situation, and you gave it your best bet, and I'm like, I wanted to reward you for that because you
I
came up with
honestly
something
had
really
no
fun.
clue like what to do there. Like other people's were so like far in the future and past, and I was like, I was very isolated to that moment because I didn't have an example to work with yet. So I was just like, I don't know. This
thing?
super like probably minor thing happened, and it was really cool that you brought that back later.
Yeah, no, I wanted to, and that's one of the ones, like one of the few that actually did just boom, this happened as far as future, and I'm like, I have a chance of making the call forward actually work.
Yeah.
That's
like
and that's
the
just
high
awesome.
watermark of like good time travel storytelling too, because it's so hard to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, we like backdoored our answer as to what happened here, which is super fun.
Like you did also make a note that these were all just possible timelines, and I think the pasts were relatively set in stone, but they were also relatively basic. It was things known about backstories and just filling in gaps.
Right.
But with the future, it's like we don't know. We just want to do something fun, and yeah. Dan, I'm glad you had that be the thing because it worked out really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did the G2 one, and then what was the other question about the tablet?
The big stone tablet. I'm guessing it was something with the mind flayers because we heard like the weird speaking from outside of time, and that they're waking up and increase the decrease or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole situation that like there were like the more I'm thinking about it, the more unanswered questions we have.
Yeah, well,
which isn't a bad thing. It's fun having those little mysteries.
Right. That seems.
Yeah, I'm gonna speculate about it 10 years later on the fan forums.
Dude, that's my dream. Like, I want to wake up one day and find out there's like a subsection of a Twin Peaks forum that's just like, yeah, you ever watch this crazy game, Curse of Greyhawk, City of Gold? Made no sense. I want answers. And I know pictures of Spider-Man.
What happened to the dolls? Where did they go?
With the dolls, what exactly was let loose in the farm? Because the gate was left open. Why was he turning him into a Mechano Man? Like, there are these questions, and I think leaving some of them to be on their own, I kind of like.
Yeah, well, I mean, only because we won't remember all of them.
I mean that too. They'll be recorded. But definitely I'm guessing had we stayed with the goblins and not, abandoned Ack, we probably would have gotten some of those answers.
We might have. Okay, hold on. So here we are. We're 10 minutes in. We're going to take our first real quick break. So sorry in advance to anyone who's just hanging out in chat, is not a sub, is not watched an ad yet. I apologize. We just like to keep the bounce rate down as much as possible. So we're going to do a 60-second ad. You won't miss any content, but you might get lucky and see us talking during the commercial break.
Oh, yeah.
Boop.
It's like
1 minute.
It's nice having those like plot points to work in if you need, though. Like,
I wonder if that's on a timer or if it's just whenever I post.
The Moobot, or
yeah, so I turned on a couple things to try and go automated, and now it looks like
it does happen immediately after times that you have posted, but not every time you've posted.
Gotcha. Yeah, I wonder if it's on like a 10-minute thing or something.
Yeah, because the other one was also after you, but a little bit of time ago.
Sure. Yeah. I added a few more things, and tried to put in some automation going on.
Is it? Ah, there we go. Haha.
Yeah. There's a few new ones. Welcome back. The ads are done. Thank you for hanging out with us. I appreciate it. Yeah. So we did. I added a couple things. So let's see. Fried Dice Paradise. So we can shout out Fried Dice Paradise, which is fun.
Ooh.
Because we run They run 2 games over on their channel with the other art, Josh, and we're also doing a Looking Glass mini-series, 4 episodes on every other Saturday night Eastern time. It's Sunday morning in Singapore where they play. Yeah, I should change that because that's actually false again.
Oh, whoops. Hack's not dead, maybe.
Hack's dead.
No. Oh, oops.
You don't know.
Z2 might be alive. Oh yeah, no, it really is a relatively low. I guess it's because a bunch of people died and then got better.
Yeah, and then we also have Oliver's Discord and Twitch as well. So we're gonna add more as time goes on, but those are the 2 I put in thus far. So I should probably do like Zweihander ones as well, but you know, one thing at a time.
We're working on it.
We're working on it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still surprised my character never actually died.
Did you never actually die?
I never fully died. I recovered every time.
I should have
without having to get cursed.
I should have killed you much harder.
Yeah, it was because at one point Goose for real died, but that was never actually explained. How he got better.
Goose?
Yeah.
Goose died?
Yeah, Goose died.
When did he die? Did I
just before. It was when we were fighting the chessboard. He died. He died, was making death saves, got a crit 20, got back up, was knocked back down, and got 3 failed saves.
Damn.
G2 or not? Sorry, no, Nico during that time was able to get back up and leave because he got a crit 20 and just booked it, and then came back later, only to be attacked by Noel.
Yeah, I got shoved down the stairs.
Drib and Kalen. Yeah, Drib and Kalen were stable. I believe Kalen turned into a vampire.
Yeah, Kalen. Kalen and Nico? Kalen and G2? Who else was a vampire? There were 2. 2 people accepted the gift of the blood.
I thought that was when Dan S was out though. Because I know Drib didn't.
Yeah, Drib did not.
Because he's not about that dark magic.
Yeah.
And Goose would not.
Yeah. But, I mean, I was able to get Goose pretty good. Because Goose...
Oh, yeah.
Goose ended up crying out corn stalks, but that was a pretty fun scene. It also worked really well because that was the first time he had done Fireball like that. He came with a vengeance. That was one of my favorite scenes, even though I wish I had dug in a little deeper on it. Just like...
Yeah.
I think that like the old father Ezekiel or Malachi, whoever he was, eating the remains of his dead son on a funeral pyre.
That was screwy.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up, and that's what I'm kind of looking for in my games.
Yeah. I have since watched the scene you referenced, where it's like the Flash and Superman. He's just following him with his eyes, but not able to really move.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that because it's perfect.
It's a good.
I'm just staring at this.
No, it's pretty cool. I liked it a lot. Yeah, that was really fun. So it may disappoint you or the fans a little bit to know that there was actually no organization around the obelisk, the tombstone.
Really?
Not in like the strictest sense. So
it wasn't a part of like the main plot events or anything.
Right. So Wognas is the last priest of Tharzadun, if I'm saying that right.
Who's the weird circle?
The chained god, yeah.
Gotcha.
So to me, Wognas got trapped in the trap the same as everyone else did. He was legitimately trapped. He was trapped alongside many of the 100 Lost, right? And that was his anger was not so much his anger was at his god for misguiding him, right? Because to me, like that is like the ultimate sign of an evil deity, is like they don't care about their followers. There's no love there. There's no, like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So like good things can happen to him, bad things can happen to him. It's irrelevant. So Wognas was, freed by the party inadvertently, and then immediately had to play nice, which is also one of my favorite tropes. I really like the players knowing that something's going on, the audience knowing something going on, but the characters being like, it's fine, it's probably fine. That's super fun to me. And
I was not able to, and he was hiding it real good.
Yeah,
Well, I ended up getting like I remember doing an insight check on that guy and getting like a 19 before my modifier, and you were like, yeah, he's angry that, like, it was one of those things where you didn't lie, but like it was like everything you told me. Yeah, no, he's angry about being stuck here for all this time.
Yeah, and he was,
and that's understandable. And I'm
His
like,
God
oh yeah,
was
I
just
guess
a
that
different
makes.
one than we expected.
Yeah.
He was very much a piece of shit.
Yeah,
and
I mean, he murdered
what's that?
the remaining 100. So
yeah, he did. He sacrificed him, which is fun.
Huh.
Yeah.
So was the slab from his god? Like,
yeah, I never really worried about it too much.
Gotcha.
One of my favorite, like, is anybody familiar with the Green Text story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Vaguely.
Yeah, I mean, like, they've become more popular in the sense that they have been like copy pasted out of 4chan and put into the world, right? But one of my favorite Green Text stories is actually just this like weird aside about like the craziest game a guy ever played with this like weird GM that he hung out with sometimes, and it was this like continuingly like increasingly mad story about the game getting weird and the game like snapping back and forth between scenarios, like just jackknifing, making zero sense, but the DM not responding to the fact that things were not making sense, responding to questions that players had asked several minutes later, and then like people in real life just like coming and going out of the game. Like his friend had like hidden in the bathroom and just like came out like dressed in like, you know, this crazy outfit. The DM like popped rainbow colored popcorn and gave it to the party, and then there was like a dead Barbie doll in the bottom of it. And it ended with the players like defeating all of the enemies and then like making saving throws, and then like kind of seeing, you know, through like weary, you know, like uncomfortable eyes, like several people looking down at them like doctors, and with the lines, "They're beginning to wake up, Inquisitor." And I've always really loved that. So I wanted to like play with like that was my little homage to that.
Gotcha.
Like, that you guys were out of time and sequence, and it's like, well, okay, wait, is any of this real, right? So it really didn't have a purpose. It was just like, how much will they notice, and what, if anything, will they connect it to? Or
Gotcha.
will it just sit there and lurk in the back of the player's mind?
Interesting. I mean, it definitely did.
Yeah.
Aside from the tablet part, it seemed like you made a pretty like obvious hook for us that we ignored after that, with him killing the 100 lost and saying, "Why don't you come find me?"
Sure.
Painted in blood. Like, were you expecting us to actually follow that?
I hedge my bets pretty carefully on like, I will put a lot of things in front of the players, and that was the great thing about the whole like second act with time being messed up, that I didn't have to commit to anything. I could pretty much cheat. Your sweet 16 for his RPG session, you were unconscious. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so it's like, I wouldn't have been like, look, Wogness is dead and you wasted your time, but it's like, I also didn't immediately go, Wogness has taken over the world, Wogness has taken over all the Oath, right? Like, because you didn't follow up on a plot hook anyways.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
That was, so let's see, let's time that out, right? Because we had just come off running away from Ack, so we were entering Act 5 when that happened. So I had a pretty clear picture of what I wanted to have happen, and that was the showdown with whatever was going on in Kaylin's sister. You were supposed to be going back with the power source for the other Spelljammer. And it was finally time to like close the loop on Curse of Gold, City of Gold, Curse of Greyhawk. So yeah, I don't know that I had like a lot planned for Wogness in particular, unless you guys really bit onto it.
Yeah, it was interesting because to me it felt like a pretty like big thing that we had to do, especially given that the last survivors of the 100 lost, and you know, they were worshippers of Palor, right? Yeah. Like it seemed like a very important hook to me, but then there was also this whole other aspect of the story that seemed even bigger, and I was like, well, crap, like,
yeah,
I feel like we're supposed to do this, but also like we have the machine. The machine.
The machine.
And then we have this giant with us, and it's time to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that left me like wondering for a while. I was like, we never went after him. I feel like we should have, but
Yeah.
It's like without though, like you said, we had our MacGuffin. We knew where we needed to take it, and we'd already done the heading back to Axe Village, and we all saw how that wound up.
I don't know that I've ever actually been more disappointed in the group. Not in like a way that is like, oh, those fuckers. But I was just like, dang, we missed out on something cool. Because like Danilei and I worked up this like awesome idea with how we were. One of the many stories you could say of like the whole Curse of Greyhawk was like, we drew what was it, the Beast for Nico.
Yeah.
And it just never mattered. It didn't matter how many times we tried. We could not get it in there. Or at least I didn't feel like we ever got it in there.
Yeah. Like there were things that I was kind of waiting for them to happen to have it play out correctly, but like, either the group like veered away from it, or like, I think there were some things that we just never had the time to really circle up on to like iron out the details.
Yeah.
So it's like there was that, and then the whole combining that with like the cursed kind of amber stuff that he had been working with, and like because I think he fell under some kind of curse, we decided, but we never really played into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm getting to the document I have that notes, because I wrote down everyone's card and when they changed.
Sure. Which I was a real big fan of. I liked the recurring thing. I'm still really glad we draw them, because like sometimes you just need something to kickstart the game, and it doesn't really matter what you end up doing with it.
Like it definitely, like, if nothing else, it was a thing in everyone's mind.
Right.
We especially like I imagine because with Nico, he made such a big deal of, oh, it doesn't matter, I don't care, and everyone else is like jumping to see his card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he was the first, like he was the first major arcana or whatever it's called for the Taroka, and it was just like it almost played up a few times.
Yeah, like I think he went through waves, and I probably could have played this a lot better, but like I started kind of trying to go a little bit more crazy and just be really aggressive as a character. But then there were moments where something would happen, and I was like, well, we need something to balance this out.
Yeah.
And he would like come back to reality a little bit more. So that was me probably misplaying my character a little bit. But
I don't think you misplayed it. I honestly appreciate whenever somebody like throws it in to make sure the party is taken care of, because sometimes everybody's going in such a different direction. You're like, oh, this isn't going well. And yeah, like the couple times we had angsty Nico, we were like, well, is anybody going to do a thing?
It's like,
yeah, I mean, you guys stopped me from saving corn stalks.
Yeah,
I almost set him free.
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish. I was like, wow, that was almost too easy. Let me just remind the party that there is a little moral ambiguity in here.
Like,
and then Dan
will
was
say,
like, it is a bad idea. And I was like, you shut your mouth. It's a great idea.
I mean, I guess it was enough of a, like, it's the sort of thing, it's like you get so into doing something that you don't stop to think what you're doing.
Yeah.
And he got us to stop just long enough to be like, what, why?
And
it was
so close.
I think because I had gone into it with the mindset of, as a player, I was thinking somebody needs to stop me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't say that out loud, I don't think, but like I was ready to be stopped, so I think I gave up on it a little too easily too. But
yeah, that's like, it was also just like the whole thing, and I feel bad because Ian came in and did that great performance, and we're just like, nah, you're gonna be locked up.
Yeah. He did a great job with it. He pivoted very well, but I agree. I thought the same thing, where I was just like, you're supposed to get my guy. Come on. Yeah. What are we doing?
I mean, he like we also at that point most of the deals he had made
Spam the long
had
doors?
sort of fallen through. Like with the exception of Squid's Kaylin's was all complete. Goose cried him out.
Yeah. Well, that was disappointing too.
Yeah. Drib didn't actually have a chance to make a deal with him. Nor would he
Yeah, you didn't want to.
Yeah, I mainly I kind of wanted to like confront him at one point, but the goal was never making a deal. It's more calling him out and being like, "What's your game?" And more trying to figure out rather than like a deal with the devil kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Also, yeah, Google Docs is down right now, so womp womp.
Does the internet work then if Google Docs is down?
I mean, we're doing this stream. It's like specifically like I wonder if I can access Drive maybe.
Can you prove it? Squid.
Mine's lagging pretty bad right now.
Yeah. Squid, tell us about Kaylin and what was her sister's name?
Elise.
Elise. I was like Elena, Eleanor, Esther. Yeah.
So I'm picturing them trying to find their way out, and then as like the days and weeks and stuff pass by, Kaylin starts turning more into like what her sister became, just to get them both to survive.
Creepy hag.
Yeah.
So in the end, you have fallen under the darkness as well. Okay, that seems pretty fit. And you're the only two. I mean, technically you were elsewhere, but you didn't go into like the bowels of Ravenloft either. You're just kind of. I kind of assumed you were trapped just in the undercity of Dustow more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because so you ended up winning out, right? Like your fight with her ended in you loved her and believed in her so much you were willing to let her kill you if necessary. Yeah, which is pretty cool and a pretty dramatic ending and pretty surprising because I was like, yeah, she stabs you, she definitely stabs you, and then the dice were like, no, you fool.
Yeah,
which is cool.
2 natural ones.
But like
actually wild. What were you saying, Dan?
Oh no, I just said the same thing. Like 2 natural ones on, because you rolled with advantage and they were both ones.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's like it's always a 1 in 400 chance. Like just, but like, damn, that was a very specific 1 in 400 chance. It's like even a 1 in a 2. It's like, well, obviously it's not very good, but I don't know that I wouldn't have just overridden it and been like, well, she has a +11 to attack.
Right.
God.
And it's like, no, dude, 2 fucking crit fails. That was a heck of a roll. That was probably one of the most surprising rolls in the whole game. I like honestly can't think of much else that was like, wow, okay.
It's when the dice kind of take the story for themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. Would you expect Kaylin to be trying to get back into the real world, or is she pretty happy in Ravenloft?
As long as her sister is with her and safe, she doesn't care.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very sweet. Okay.
I'm kicking myself for not being able to check what Kaylin's card was, see if any of the others worked out.
Yeah.
Okay, right down on my character sheet.
Oh yeah, true.
It has something to do with her becoming a soldier.
Did yours ever change?
I don't think so.
Let's see. Hold on. I should have written these down somewhere.
I think Drib and Goose were the only ones who changed their cards.
Yeah, I think so too.
Goose is like, true. Goose is when he had the deep, meaningful thing with Answer and Eldum, and Drib when Blossom was first grown by the Seer.
Yeah, so I've got Abjure changed to something, Soldier, Healer, Priest, Beast changed to Berserker.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, Goose's was changed to Berserker. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Head towards Alinsky. Contact their Junebug. Watch out for Augustus, the leader. Dark power. Likely a vampire. Blah blah blah.
Oh, are you able to get to the document?
No, I keep all of my session notes in Evernote.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
because I was like, that's very similar to some of the things I wrote down.
Yeah, we had.
Yeah, it's actually similar to what I wrote too.
Well, I mean, it's probably the things I said to you. So
true.
Yeah, no, I've got 7 healing potions and 2 vials of holy water that were totally used.
I mean, I don't know. Did we have to have used one of those healing potions? That was one of our special. Both of our special items were healing potion crates.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we ever went with that.
I know I used the shit out of that holy water.
Yeah.
True. Yeah,
you
the holy water.
Those, I think, didn't you?
Yeah.
I've got. Game starts with a shrill high note. In a tight vignette, the wayward cleric's climbing up a rocky hill. We see Sia in the lead. She's calling out to Answer and Eldom. Come quick! I can't believe it! This will surely fix our problems. Ah! And Answer and Eldom's eyes go wide.
Oh, yeah, she's getting possessed by the sword. I get it.
Yeah.
You made it so that the player's actions had consequences.
How dare I, right?
No, it's fine. You're golden. Yeah. So but it was fun seeing a lot of that stuff come back.
Yeah, so I remembered thinking in my head that it was probably Black Razor, which is like a famous Greyhawk sword. But it didn't really matter what it was or wasn't, right? Like, because we never really addressed it. But actually, in this note here, I have written down Sword of Darkness and Flame, sitting on a white marble pillar. Its reputation is enough to keep all but the most foolish away. It is extremely intelligent, high ego, driven and cursed, and will only linger until the job is done. Which might explain why, we found Sia dead. Right, like she did what she was supposed to, and that it abandoned her, like so many evil things do. So to answer one of the first questions, since we're kind of just rambling, to me, I really liked the Cult of the Sun, and one of the things I wanted to do was have this deity that all of the. I love taking good gods and having them do evil things. It's just such a mood, right? Because like it's so everybody expects like, oh, and then happily ever after, right? Like it's just like a quick, neat, tidy little button up and it's all good. And it's like so rarely the case in storytelling. Like, the more you dig into it, the more you find out people are human, right? Situations are complicated, and like it always goes deeper. So to me, something that was super fun was that like all of the good gods of the sun had gotten together and beaten up this like maniac that was like way too much sun, right? It's like burning the world alive because it was 24/7 just intensity. And they were like, we're gonna like, chill you down just a little bit. So I really like the idea of this like crazy beast that had just been like tossed elsewhere and ignored for so long that all it wanted to do was bring the sun back all the time, like all sun all the time. And that was like the sin of the gods of the sun.
Nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then like it's also a really cheap excuse to be like, yeah, there's this like crazy dumb dead man walking around the underworld that if given half the chance will burn the world alive, but right now he's missing half of his skull because somebody ate it, and now that's why the world is split into half day and half night. Like it's just, I don't know, just good and easy world building, that was my thought.
I mean, it didn't kill us, which is good, but it's also just like it left us all to die. Even once it was smart enough, it's like, I'm whole again. I'm free. Time to burn the world.
Yep.
But it's interesting because there's a pretty high chance of us all dying trying to follow it, and nobody did.
Yeah, and I mean, 2 people also dropped off there.
Yeah.
So it was like,
to be clear, like the goal was not like, I killed you, right? Like it was just the point of like, it was dangerous. It was likely that someone would fail. And
Mm-hmm.
it just so happens like y'all are fucking heroes. I mean, maybe not to the rest of the world, but
It was 3 1 in 6 chances, if I recall, because it was, or was it just a 6 or a 5 or a 6 would kill them?
5 or a 6, yeah.
oh,
Okay, so it was 3 1 in 3, so it was a 1 in 30 or 1 in 27. Math is dumb.
It was fair. It should have happened statistically.
Yeah.
Somebody should have died, especially if all 5 of you had gone. But and
I mean, but
I would much rather players make choices. Like, it was never to like punish somebody. It was never to not let them have an impact, right? Like, you don't die because you didn't go out. In fact, it's the only way to guarantee you live. But you won't get the whole story, Yeah. And I think that's really interesting. I don't know. One of my favorite, and this is like a real crazy tangent, but one of my favorite games I ever ran was an Unknown Armies game with only 2 players, and they spent 2 sessions building up to going to I think it was like the 18th parallel or something, just this imaginary longitude in the world, and then the whole premise of the game is there are some lines man is not meant to cross. And it was like quite literally like a longitudinal line, and they got right up to it, and then they're like, no, we don't want to do it, and they went back, and I was like, obviously you're like, you do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want them to go, but like it's also so cool that like we were that involved in it, and we were like they were role playing their characters, like we don't want to cross it because we're not meant to, and something bad could happen, so it's like they drove back and their characters went back to their normal lives, but we kept playing. And then, so I was like, okay, well, what do you do the next day? Well, okay, well, what do you do the next day? Okay, what do you do the next day? And they were like, he calls them up. He's like, do you want to go cross that line? You know what I mean? Like, and I love that. I think that's such a beautiful moment of like, it eats at you. You know what I mean? Like, Drib is sitting there with corn stalks in the fucking underworld. Like, I should have gone. And not only because he... and I'm going to be a little aggressive with it, like not only because he abandoned his party, right? But like he wants to know.
This is also like that version of him. I picture him as very disconnected, both from like the other people and especially from this world. Like he's probably like he's very aloof. This is a guy who lived in an almost heavenly paradise.
Oh shit! Did we lose him?
What? Did everything crash?
Yeah, okay. It was a really bad frame you were stuck on.
Ooh, sorry.
Anyway,
but it's just like he's so like he went through this because it's like why not? His motivate like that version of him, whereas the normal Drib was like a very rash, impulsive, kind of silly guy. This is like he's doing this because he can. It's like his motivations are like kind of unknown even to him, and it's just like these are just people. They would have died anyway. He'll go on and he'll live his life. If it was like actually Drib, he would have like never left and like would have gone on and done everything in his power and cast Goodberry a couple times to try and help some amount.
Sure.
Just see if there's anything he could have done. But like he didn't have those connections. That's part of the reason why I wanted him to be the one to go in and do this journey. Because even Ari, who had like built this like elaborate backstory, and he was there for all of like 2 or 3 episodes, still had like this weird reverence for like Kaylin and her whole thing, and like a weirdly optimistic worldview. From almost like his own type of detachment, like the difference between living in the Feywild and growing up there and living in like Birdland. It's like it was just like a fun thing to play around with.
Yeah.
But yeah, and his main concern is just getting out. Like not for any particular reason, just because that's what he should be doing.
Well, and that's one of the things, like, and we're here to kind of talk about it a little bit. It's one of the purposes of this. Like, I tried to create that out by combining 2 worlds and giving everybody the chance to have a secondary character. Like, obviously everybody, cares about their characters in some capacity and probably wants good things for them, but knowing that I was going to thrust you into a lot of danger, like quite literally, I wanted to make sure that everybody kind of had that out, right? It was like, okay, so if I die, the game's not over for me, right? Or if I want to not risk a character that really has come to mean a lot to me, because a year and a half is a lot of time. I have that way to do that. So I am a little curious, Tristan, you obviously take a little more umbrage with this than most, but like you were not pleased when you had to decide to continue playing or stop at the risk of death, but like that's a risk always, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I guess it.
Yeah, I want to know what you're thinking, but then I want to hear what other people are thinking too.
I guess it was just the idea of taking a risk for the unknown. And if I had known in advance what it was being led to and what would have happened, I totally would have continued on. For one, because I genuinely think he would have just, like, upon figuring out that that's a pool that turns you into a Dark Lord, he may have just done it. He may have just jumped in. This weird,
seems pretty cool
pious
to me, but...
monk guy being like, okay, because why not? He can help keep order, but it's like risk of death with uncertainty as the only reward was what kind of got me.
Seems like a pretty good deal to me. I don't know what you're talking about. Same deal you make every time you go out your front door.
I mean,
I feel like anytime...
That's why I don't go anywhere.
I know you have to play differently for your character, but as a player, anytime that there is something very risky, I'm just like, I should do that. Because if I live, it's going to be cool.
It's going to be so worth it. Yeah, I mean, and if that just doesn't summarize your actions and Kaylin's actions, I don't know what will. Did you both double up on radiation, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like.
They had the turbo leveling.
I was ready to, like I did really like my character, but I was also, I think for two reasons. Like I'm not so naive to think that like I'm going to keep a character forever, but I also know that you tend to be a fairly deadly DM. Or at least in the challenges that you put in front of people. So I was expecting at any point that I could just stop existing.
Yeah.
So.
And that's I gave myself a challenge, not in this game, but my first Greyhawk game in 5th edition. We did just shy. We did like a year or 1 day short of 2 years. I guess I don't know how to describe that.
Oh, wow.
A year and 364 days.
Oh wow.
Yeah, to the day. And they hit level 20, and my only goal was to never kill a character. I wanted to specifically make sure, like, they can get captured, they can get stripped of all of their weapons, right? They could have level drain, they could have ability score damage, they could get, like, retired or timed out for a while, but I never wanted to kill anyone. And we ended with only one character, completely different in the sense that, like, one player retired 2 characters and was playing their third, but the first 2 were both alive. One character had played a different character for a couple levels here and there, and then one player was no longer with the group, so they were just kind of forfeit from that rule. And honestly, for playing in an online game like this, that was one of my goals. It was not to explicitly never kill players, because I already had as per Ravenloft, like, backdoor ways into bringing them back, but I really wanted to have 20, 30 sessions with a character and let that kind of character development shine.
Yeah.
Well, Ravenloft also feels like a setting where you do have a lot of potential, and I was reading into it more, and I need to find some of the, like, because to my knowledge, as far as, like, I would need to look into other editions for just Ravenloft source books, because for 5e, I think it's just Curse of Strahd for Ravenloft that I've seen. And I'm assuming it was introduced in one of the much earlier editions and just has all these resources. And I remember reading about just a post kind of talking about it, and how in one of the originals there's evil Shakespeare is just one of the characters.
The Dark Lords are so, like, heinous and ridiculous. They're so over the top.
But, like, that feels like so much potential for, like, it's not just it doesn't have to be just the big bad evil guy. It's like they have their motivation in this weird twisted way.
And that's like to jump on that a little bit. Like that's what makes Goose such a perfect Dark Lord. Like, like his guilt, his killing of his mentor, both as like a mercy but also revenge for robbing him of his like love interest, right? And then like stealing his love interest out of time after all of this fucked up shit that's happened, and being evil incarnate makes him, it's perfect. Like I couldn't have written a better story. You know what I mean? And that's like, and like, I'm going to toot my own horn here because I think Dan Allais summarized it really well. Like, we played probably close to an hour later than normal. And I don't know about anybody else. Like I was tired and I had a little bit of frustration stuck in my craw there, but it's like, I can't think of any character that didn't get exactly what they wanted or didn't have exactly what I wanted happen to them. Cause like Drib, you flew. I don't know what you want from me. You know what I mean? You got wings.
I mean, in the form of the ship, you mean, or
as a different version of you who could fly.
Oh yeah, true.
You know
true.
what I mean?
That
like
was
you did that. Like
that was part of one of the other fun things about it is just seeing because that was like whenever you have timeline things, it's like, well, what happens if this thing? And I don't know why, like which one of our actions would have caused the Grimm to not do some of what she did, but clearly one of them happened. Along with Drib, it was also that Nico's fiance, who's Anara.
Well, stop jumping on other people's stuff. He's going to talk about that.
Sorry.
You were muted. I saw you talking, Danla.
Oh, I was just saying that Brindlethunk gave him flight at one point too. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
that did get to experience 10 minutes of flight.
That was a little
Drib.
tease. Yeah, that was a little tease.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was you who said it, right? You were like, everybody got what they wanted.
Yeah, it didn't really register to me right away. Like when we first ended that session, it was probably a good like 5 minutes before I was like, actually everybody's storyline kind of resolved exactly how we set it out. Like maybe not in the manner in which we expected to, but like Nico technically saved Anara, pulled her out of a different timeline into the present, and after he thought he had killed her.
Oh yeah.
And then there she is, and
it's an extra fucked up and sad.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Squid probably got off the easiest, which is surprising, So you are queen. It just robbed you of your eyes, and the world is a total shithole. But you have your sister, who's an evil witch now, and apparently she's forgiven you. So everything you wanted.
She can be my royal vizier.
What's that?
She can be my royal vizier.
Yeah, that's exactly
no one's gonna mess with you.
Yeah, do you feel like there were other things that you were going for, or do you feel like you kind of hit everything you wanted to?
No, she actually hit like everything I was looking for. So
yeah, and I feel like, from the games that we've played together, like I think there are times you definitely play to be the hero, but it seemed like this time right from the beginning you were ready to get like down in the muck, right? Yeah, so I felt like that was super successful, and obviously Riley and Dan S are not here, as well as Ian technically, who joined us a couple times, but like my goal was definitely to put Riley and Goose through the ringer. He made just like the most innocent, sweet little spellcaster, right? That was just like used and abused and ignored by his family, abused and ignored by the church, right? And then over the course of this time, we saw him finally come into his own, realize that people were lying to him and weren't telling him the truth, that there was never, like the stories, the letters from Goose was like
that hurt.
That was a fucking episode, you know what I'm saying? Like that was some rough shit. And
that was one of my favorites.
He did such a good job with that. And
oh yeah,
man, and that's like you hate to see it, but you love to see it because Goose just got. And
those magic bags wound up being such a great item because it let us do like a lot of times it was specifically communicating with Goose, because he, in just wanting to do the right thing and be a good person, kept going out on all these limbs and getting kidnapped or being out training and stuck in time. And he, like, it's in the weird thing, like, he was like, not, and I'm not trying to downplay any of the other party members, but in a lot of ways he was the hero.
Yeah.
He wanted to beat the evil person who had killed his god, who was possessed by the evil sword, and had the training montage. He went through his hero's journey, and at that final second, in his final heroic act, became the villain.
Well,
which is just...
I mean, he sacrificed himself for the greater good, which was actually turning him into the villain, which is like, yeah, that's
wild.
It's so good. Tell me I'm
like,
good. Tell me I'm good.
You're good. You got it. You rocked
it
that.
was. I think that was your goal. The entire campaign was not necessarily like, we're gonna bring back the sun. It's we're gonna destroy Goose. It happened.
I said that like 30 times out of 35 sessions.
But
so.
And the thing is, to go off of Dan's thing of everyone got what they wanted, he brought back the sun.
He brought back the sun.
Oh boy, did he bring back the sun
back
in a big way.
24 hours a day.
Like,
so essentially, this turns to Athos now, right?
Yeah, exactly. He just roasted the world alive. This is a spoiler warning for those of you who are listening or watching this at a later date. If you've never played Dark Souls 3 and specifically never gotten like all of the endings, there's an ending that you can do that throws the entire world into darkness, and it's like for a moment you're like, nah, that can't be. And then like the Firekeeper, who I think finally has sight at that point, but I could be wrong. It's been long enough that I don't remember exactly. She's like, wait, are you still there? And you're like, wow, we took all of the light out of the entire world. There is nothing but darkness. And like, so I mean, obviously we did the opposite of that, because we brought on the sun 24/7. But I was really like struck with how interesting it was, I just did not expect that to happen. And I was like, oh, that's a really neat moment. It's like super cathartic, and like you have doomed so many people, right, to just be wandering around alone and scared in this world, which we didn't do as far as bringing back the sun. But I really liked that like super visceral, very apparent, like in a couple days people are going to be very panicked.
Yeah. But, it's like even like putting the world into eternal day, that's still going to eventually have those repercussions.
Doom is cathartic. Yeah, I mean, I think like it's cathartic for me in the sense that like I set out to make a story that was bittersweet. And I got to do that, right? I had players that were interested in kind of going along for that journey. Like everybody got what they wanted, which also meant me, which meant like a very dark story. And that was like what I was looking for. It was not so much that I was like, they will lose and they will thank me at the end of it. But I think that there is a super I think I did a great job with the game in the sense that you through a certain lens, everyone got what they wanted, including me. Like that tells me everybody had fun. And I think that subverting that trope, it's like, okay, you didn't exactly save Inara, but you can't say you didn't save Inara, right?
Yeah.
You wanted to fly. Right. It's very simple, but it's like, you did fly. It wasn't exactly you, but you can
Well,
fly.
I do also want to point out that in the end, how did Drib get out of there on the Spelljammer? Which flew away.
Right.
Like, even Drib in his final moments, like, he flew away and he was able to go home. Puvu was able to find a family.
Right.
But it's in these weird, like, but then also that's one of the other reasons why I liked the idea of showing alternate Drib, who this is what Drib's like if he was there, and is that a good thing? He's this weird aloof guy who's just like, well, I'll just abandon the party because
I don't care.
This is a death wish. And it's like he was in a way like cold and kind of uncaring, not out of any malice, but just out of that's who he was.
Yeah. No, for sure.
But like, it was a lot of this is what we've got. Are we happy about it? In a good way.
Yeah. Ken Hite did he's a Call of Cthulhu writer among some other games, but that's where he does most of his work. And he talked about like a real like cosmic horror, a real like eldritch themed game is not the players afraid of the DM or the players afraid of the monsters, but it's the players afraid of the treasure. And I think about that a lot, very much in the same way of like it cursed with knowledge, like knowing is worse, is like a really tough thing to pull off. So it's like getting what you wished for, getting that genie wish, and then like having it bite you in the ass is definitely like what I went in for. The point of Fallout Dead Money is you have to let go. And I don't know that we ever hit that exactly right, because that's like very nuanced, but the idea of like, you know, you got what you wanted, but like what did it cost? For some people, everything. I thought was really fun.
I will note with Fallout Dead Money, having played it on the PlayStation 3, I decided to not let go and was able to get out with every single gold bar. It took like 3 hours.
Yeah, you did that too, huh? Yeah, I cheated as well, and it turns out I have control issues.
Yeah, after like 20 tries, just kept dropping the gold through the I was able to drop it on the other side of the force field.
Yeah, we're the worst kind of people. And then run and then pick it up and get out.
Yeah, and like I genuinely feel I had less than a second left as I was slow over encumbered walking to the door, mashing the X button to activate it the second I could.
Yeah.
And no. Sorry, not Father Gregor. What's his nuts? I don't care.
Father Elijah.
Father Elijah, sorry, I'm not gonna let go.
Yeah, no, it's true. I did the same thing, and I had to play the game 3 times and cheat 3 times before I realized I wasn't getting its message.
Yeah, I don't like. The thing is, there's also something to be said about playing a game, seeing the message, hearing the message, and saying, "How about no?"
Right, Father, what's his nuts?
Yeah. Like we.
Yeah, which is exactly what the party did with Shongololo. It's just like, I see you, but I don't want to.
Yeah. We just abandoned him.
Yeah, you straight up
like he's fine, but like in my defense, I didn't want to go there in the first place.
In my defense.
Like I tried so hard to talk him out of it.
Yeah.
And be like, "Oh no, come with us, it'll be better. Think of the meaties." And no, he has to go back to help his people.
Right. So what do we think? We got any other questions? Anything else we're thinking of? Anything untold? Better left, not said?
So like one thing that has been was the weird time distortion just like that's something that happens in your Greyhawk as time gets all funky, or was there
no? That was specifically you guys getting trapped in the in the trap.
Okay, so that caused because what I noted was different places had different time. And so was it just like that one item was radiating out and its power even for people not stuck in it?
Yep.
Because like Whiskey Hollow, that must have been at least a couple decades.
Yeah, I don't know that I specifically gave it a time, but it was long enough that the Cult of Jail had flourished, right? Like it had taken off. Her dragons were old enough to be like very dangerous. You know, it was at least 50 years. And that some other group of adventurers had tricked Cornstalks, right? That you guys made deals with him, even if you didn't give him everything. You played his game enough that he got what he wanted out of you. He was better when you left than when you had arrived. But some other people did it, and then I wrote the weird little poem about like those that tricked Cornstalks. And then he was like very excited to see you guys, and really, like he wanted Goose because Goose was the most faithful among you, and he thought he could trick him again. I mean, really, that was Cornstalks in a nutshell. He was just like, okay, what can I get out of who?
Yeah. I liked Rummy Red and Calcime. They were fun little characters.
They're up there with Roy Keg that just kind of show up pretty regularly in my games because they're good NPCs.
They are.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know if it's just because Rummy like his last name was Red, but I pictured one of them as like the classic red mage from Final Fantasy or something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. And you know, like the kind of snarky attitude from at least
Yeah.
from like the 8-bit animations is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one other quick thing. When we were there, but the first time when like we first met Rummy Red and them, no one in the bar knew about Roy Keg. Then when we came back, they did again.
Sure.
Was that like, was there some like deeper meaning to that? Was it just someone?
When you started, you were between those two times.
Oh, we went to the past.
Yeah.
Oh, that I did not catch. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean that would have been like the only real cue, right? It was like Nico's place, and then Roy Keg's bar. And did anyone know Roy Keg? Did anyone know you or not?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh, because Nico's. Oh yeah, because Nico's place, it was kind of the shell of the building, but had it been built before Nico owned it and turned it into his bar.
Yeah, I mean, and it's possible I made a mistake, right? Like I was working with, I never gave out anything a specific, like okay, it happens at 247, and not 214. But the idea was like, yeah, there was not a lot of internal consistency. You just had to use the clues around you to kind of piece together what was happening.
Gotcha. Interesting.
I was curious, and maybe I'm just forgetting something, and someone can remind me. But
yeah, you were talking.
Hello.
Yeah. What up?
Yeah.
Okay, that was really weird. I heard my headset cut out for a moment there.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, we powered up that like massive dragon ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Did we see the other side of that? Like what we created out of it?
Yeah.
That was the dragon.
Yeah,
children.
Jail ran away with 2 silver dragons. Technically, they were Civac Draconians.
Okay.
But they grew up to be more dragon than anything else.
Yeah. I guess I that might just be me having a bad memory, or I was distracted or something, but I didn't remember.
Yeah,
what happened with that.
I think when it happened, it was the next game. As soon as her turn was up, or at the bottom of the initiative order, she ran out of the tent with 2 silver eggs under her arm, and that was all you saw.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then when you went back there, the Cult of Jail had flourished. Her twin silver dragons, blah 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 blah. Right? Like, let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
I remember her running. I guess I was expecting that we would encounter them.
Yeah.
Well, I think she was specifically just trying to escape because with like Tree Stride, she could have gone pretty darn far. Like that spell, assuming she knows the area, she would have gone to the safest large tree. And my concern was and it was probably just thrown out as a joke, there was that big tree in the Tinklepie area. I'm like, oh no, is she going to try and do one last attack?
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember at one point looking through the Druid spell list, I'm like, oh, I should start making a note of big trees just in case.
Yeah.
And then you pull that out, and I'm like, oh no.
So 2 things on that. One, so Ian did a better job reading it too, because I was very much looking for a Fallout DLC world, right? I said there have been nameless years for so long in Whiskey Hollow. Time is just different here, which is a hint that the time was different, right? But not necessarily because it was there and because you had left and come back. The Cult of Jail flourishes, her twin silver dragons all grown up, never knowing anything but the old ways and a hatred of the Tinklepaws, the remnants of which they ran out long ago. So the Tinklepaws are gone, right? The Durgans have won, specifically Jail Durgan. He who walks behind corn stalks is trapped, laid low under cold iron and darkness, ever unable to grow, trapped by those who could fool even him. And then I specifically went into who they were, right? So it was one that could make cold iron from dust, another that reaped what they sowed, right? So like owned their mistakes, right? And one suspicious enough to fear the old blood, which does anybody recognize the reference? The old blood.
Wait, was it someone we met?
No, it was Bloodborne reference.
Oh,
okay.
that would be why.
I only played long enough to punch the werewolf at the beginning to death, and
So
then
you played
I
7
had
minutes.
to give the game back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not get the sword. I didn't realize you could.
Oh, okay. So if you'd like to
Yeah.
play that, I will let you borrow it because you should play it. Because it's
It's
amazing.
not
Yeah, I
on
should.
PC, is it?
I
No.
don't think it's ported over yet, but I think they were finally talking about it.
Oh, that's good. Because like I've looked at it and I'm like, I'd like to play this,
It's
and I
amazing.
ended up.
It's so good.
Yeah, it looks really fun. I at one point tried getting Dark Souls, only to realize it is unplayable with the keyboard and mouse on the computer.
That's not true. You just got to get good, scrub. Anyway,
Like none of the buttons make any sense, Dave.
well, we'll work on it.
Like
anyway,
it uses half your
Just have to
keyboard.
remap them. That's
Yeah.
all.
Anyway, the point was, right, Whiskey Hollow is a tomb. Are you going to do anything about it? Are you going to change it? Are you going to mess up the status quo? Or are you going to leave corn stalks right where they were? Which was cool. So the other thing that was really fun, Civac Draconian specifically, I don't know if anyone followed that link.
I did.
They are known as shape changers. They have a very specific ability. And if you remember, I named the episode that this was all happening Chameleon. And then I had already called them Civac Draconians, not knowing that they had that. And that was just simultaneous creation because I was stealing the Dark Souls spell Chameleon. I wanted Goose to watch the ritual and see what was happening, but not be able to impact it. I really wanted him to face like how awful the Tinkle Paws were. And it ended up like kind of working, but he was more interested in just getting revenge. So we just went that way instead. It was fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I like Darkest Scryer's much nicer spelling of Tinklepaw, Paugh. Which is just it seems like an actual name and not a very silly one for Knoll Gnomes.
They were Knoll Gnomes. I don't know what you want from me.
Oh no, I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's. But yeah, that whole like Whiskey Hollow was wild. It did have that like kind of DLC area vibe.
Yeah.
Of like even just like showing up in this like because we were just kind of there, and it was like a whole new situation compared to being in the city and doing that whole thing. Yeah. And getting like no treasure and power out of the deal except for a few pieces of amber.
Yeah.
Like
it was cool. It felt more inspired than I thought it would. I really had a lot of fun building that world. Like the only pitch I had to begin with was the 12 sessions, right, mapped to the calendar. Go out, do a thing. Everybody had this like time, date, right, month, name, right? So it's just supposed to be very thematic in that way. And then like the Tinklepaw thing I actually worked on with Darkest Scryer. He supplied a few really cool ideas that were able to meld in there nicely. And Whiskey Hollow is actually where I lived like growing up from like 7 until like 20. It just happened to. Yeah, it's real. It's
real
in
place.
Yeah, it's in Baldwinsville. So a hollow is basically just a valley. It's just it's just a different name for it. I mean, whiskey. I'm not 100% sure what they're going for there.
I mean, it sounds like a D&D location.
Yeah, Whiskey Hollow was really cool. And then so Bankrupt, town of Bankrupt is actually my grandmother's place. Well, technically my nana, but they live on Bankrupt Road. And that's out in Phoenix Fulton area. So I just ripped off wholesale, like just like remote country New York, and that was where you were. You were just dealing with like rum runners and weird wannabe Southerners, and we just had a good old time.
They're big,
with it.
strong.
So that is actually one of the things that has stuck with me most from this, in that in order to get Remy to eat his eggs and things like that, I started telling him, if you eat your eggs, you'll get big, strong.
That's right.
And he still does that.
It's so good.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Anything.
I will say I do Squid, when you had your couple of Twyla Durgan lines, I loved it. They were some of my favorites.
Yeah.
You're not my Duncan. It was so good. It was so good.
It was.
Your delivery was perfect.
We did a lot of full circles, which is super satisfying.
Like, Yeah. It feels like a lot of times you'll set out and try and do games and like stuff sort of like falls through, but so much came through in this.
Yeah.
Like every character succeeded, or I guess they got what they wanted, like Dan said, and it feels like it almost feels like the unofficial like message of this is sometimes you get what you want. Is that a good thing? Because we did.
Yeah.
Like even looking at like characters that weren't there briefly, like Ack is back with his clan. That seemed to be something. I mean, he's there physically, and now he has he has a new thing to be united with them about.
Hatred of the party.
Yeah.
No.
You get Z2, who, like you mentioned, the whole religious aspect. He brought back this powerful deity.
Yeah.
Like that's power right there.
Yeah, no, it's
like,
true.
And it is just this interesting thing, and it's wild that Kaelin, who literally was going to be stabbed in the back, just nope, just dice say no. Like it's beautiful.
Dice say no, yeah, that's for sure.
But it led to like this moment of like, this is what happens now. She can't do it, and it was awesome.
It was. All right, cool. Anybody got anything, or shall we have our closing remarks?
The only thing, this is relatively minor, but Nico, I think after everything happened, initially he was going to sacrifice himself because he wanted Anara and Zizzy to have a life to live.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to bring the sun back so that they had a world to live in. But now that he's alive and the sun's back, like, he's more driven than ever to actually get out of there, when he was just ready to throw in the towel for them.
Nice.
And I always thought this was kind of funny in my head. Like, I had always pictured Nico as being, kind of scrawny, definitely not very strong by any means, and Anara probably like similar, like classic Tabaxi build, like very slender, and dexterous. But Zizzy, in my mind, he was like a Leon, and he was this like jacked, massive like cat walking around.
That's funny.
Just like larger than either of his parents.
He may get that for you, Dad.
So I don't know. That's one like cool little tidbit that I wanted to throw out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I just want to add on my character's last remarks. Ari's probably going back home. He'll come back in another 100 years when things have gotten less crazy, maybe. But with Yatagarasu, I'm so happy I picked that name, and this is how it ended, because in certain versions of the Japanese folklore, Yatagarasu is a three-legged crow who lives in the sun.
Oh, look at that!
And it's just like, I'm like, oh wow, well, and I think he might get a little zealoty now, and I don't know if there's like, the sun cult is probably alive and well, but that might be his new thing, because like, this is clearly a sign. It's all daylight all the time. That's gotta mean something.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the other thing. Zizzy's name was basically just a pun. It was Zizzyveus. There's a word that is a Ziziva.
What is a Ziziva?
What is a Ziziva?
Ziziva is a family of weevils, like a class of weevils.
Oh my god!
Nice. I
still can't believe no one got Grib
33
for over
episodes.
a year.
33 episodes. Nobody saw Bird.
Like, I think, like, I even made a joke, like, episode 1 about how he named himself that.
Yeah.
Like, his name was Driv Corvide Corvus or something like that.
I think I realized it, like, literally one episode before anybody else had said something, and I wasn't even sure that you had done it on purpose. It was like, that's funny. Driv is bird backwards.
Yeah, no,
like, I should tell Tristan that.
It's a technique I stole from my dad, who had the powerful wizard Radek, which is cheddar backwards.
I hate it.
I love it. And I'm like, all right, sure. because he named himself, and that's all he could come up with.
Yeah. All right, Squid, you got anything?
I'm picturing Twyla
Twilight.
trying to find her way out.
Yeah.
And ending up she doesn't make it.
Oh.
Oh.
And she had left the other world anyways. And so she left her Duncan behind.
Yeah.
So her final words before she passes out are goodbye, my big strong.
Okay, now we're gonna cry. Thanks, Squid.
It's okay. He's still flying around somewhere. It's like, nice. Well, cool. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. We'll have to follow up with everybody else at some point, even if it's just like via text or something. Really just wanted to make sure that, you know, I kind of heard where people were at and you know, if they were feeling and what they were feeling and stuff. Because we ran pretty afoul of time on the last game. And obviously there's a little bit of friction and like the implicit danger of just adventuring in this like endless chasm underneath the, you know, like the Darklands in Ravenloft. And the idea was not to just like, haha, got you. But really to just demonstrate just how dangerous and how far away from safety you were. And that was kind of why you had other characters. So it didn't just like soft lock you out of playing the game. But yeah, this was really cool. This game was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about like just streaming in general. And yeah, that's not how the game was spelled when we stole it. Oh, Tinklepaw? Yeah. I think the PAUGH was correct, and I just changed it because whatever, I can do what I want. I can also change it again. Yeah. No, this was super cool. I can see a world where we revisit it someday, but I think we will close the book on City of Gold, Curse of Greyhawk for the foreseeable future, having learned a lot about the world and all being just a little bit sadder and wiser for the experience.
I would love some one-shots where we can explore Brundlefunk's ruins.
Oh yeah, I forgot about all those runes you spelled. Also, does everyone get it? Curse of Greyhawk and City of Gold, the acronyms are the same.
Yeah.
Get it, guys?
Yeah, that was my like, well, it is like episode 19.
It's bird backwards, everyone.
All right.
I'm sorry.
We're out of here. Thank you so much for hanging out and talking to us. This was not a conventional game in the strictest sense. It just giving everybody a little bit of closure and letting us kind of jabber jaw about it. Plus, I didn't have anything prepped for the actual game this week, and you hate to miss you got to keep on your schedule, you know.
So, any fun upcoming aside from, I believe, like at some point the gate's gonna be happening.
Yeah. Well, so we don't have. So we've got Mike's game next Wednesday, which is the 30th. He's running us through. It's like Tautus Veri, something like that. City in the Clouds. That'll be session 2. Starts at 7 p.m. on the 30th. The very next day, so a week from today at 8 p.m. should be 8:30 somewhere in there. That is the first actual episode of The Gate. We're using Scum and Villainy, which is it's powered by Blades in the Darkness. I don't remember their specific. It's Blades in the Darkness hack. I don't remember specifically what engine it calls it. That'll be a lot of fun. And then that Saturday at 10 p.m. We're doing The Looking Glass with Fried Dice Paradise. 10 until midnight, maybe 10 till 1. I might push it a little bit further if I can get away with it that time. There are a few more games kind of maybe coming up on the horizon. A few people are talking about getting stuff started up, but we don't have details yet, so we're not going to tease anything out that we can't confirm for certain. What happens this slot in 2 weeks on the 8th is not 100% sure. Right now I'm feeling like probably a one-shot that might bridge our gaps, but there could be a not related to us Kickstarter that might free us up a game. And we might steal that spot for a little while too. So just gonna have to stay on top of this spot to see what's coming.
Yeah, it's that Prime Thursday real estate.
You know it. You love it. All right.
For anyone who's still here, I'm actually getting players together, and I'm gonna be GMing at some point, hopefully.
That's right.
Oh yeah, I keep meaning to tell you I'm interested in it, depending on what time you plan on running it.
It would likely be, and I'll make this announcement. It's hopefully going to be an alternating Tuesday evening thing.
Nice.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 8 o'clock or later, I'm always down. But usually
That-
before that, it's tough for me.
I was probably thinking like an 8 to 10 kind of slot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Maybe going a little late, or depending on. But yeah, and that would be a good few players. So it's creeping ever closer to fun adventures in D&D.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out,
Yeah.
everybody. We'll see you back. It'll be just about a week, so we got nothing